Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Mind your business. Only on Money FM 89.3.
Thanks for joining us on The Breakfast Show. It's Audrey Seek and Ryan Huang with you today on Mind Your Business. Now, we've all felt it, right? That stiff neck after a long day at the desk, staring at a screen, a dull ache in your lower back that creeps in during the late hours, and maybe a sore wrist coupled with tense shoulders that never seem to go away, but you kind of brush it off.
Yeah, I think we're getting older.
Yeah.
But also, I think part of our fast-paced work culture. So this is a story for so many office workers. We push through discomfort, prioritizing deadlines and deliverables, often at the expense of our own health. So in reality, our bodies are paying the price of our hustle. And that's where today's guest comes in.
Yes, she's going to help us rethink this mindset. Amelia Lee is the CEO of The Health Collective, and that's a company that's helping people out with putting their well-being first, from empowering everyday office workers to partnering with some of the region's biggest employers. She's on a mission to make good health not just accessible, but truly sustainable. So, Amelia, it's great to have you with us here on The Breakfast Show.
Oh, thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, you're looking well, so I'm glad to have this chance to ask you all things about health. But let's start from the beginning. You've gone from investment banking and the Harvard Business School to acquiring and scaling healthcare businesses. So what drew you into the healthcare space, and why now?
Yeah, I think for me, starting off my career, right? So my husband's a doctor. Starting off in banking, we both were working pretty long hours.
Yes.
Yeah, but, at the end of the day, he would come back and say, I did this operation, that operation. And at some point, I was like, I changed my Excel sheet 100 times, 1,000 times. But I felt that at least for me, I have kind of what I'm looking for, meaning of work in my career. Went to business school, thought a bit harder about it, and decided to make the switch to healthcare. So I don't question, what am I doing with my life anymore? And
Yeah, so we're seeing more and more young professionals dealing with physical issues, right? Like back pain, neck stiffness, stress-induced symptoms. From your point of view, what are some of the top health concerns facing today's workforce here in Singapore?
Yeah, interesting you said that. So recently I was chatting with one of the biggest corporate insurers, and they were telling me that last year, musculoskeletal pains, your neck aches, back aches, actually made it to the list of top 3 claims that they received.
Yeah.
So, it's not just like, you would think you get all sorts of other bigger ailments, but it's actually these chronic pains that are slowly creeping up the ladder.
Yeah, is this a factor of them just being more aware, or is it actually just happening more?
I think it's a combination of both. People are more aware that you don't just push through the pain, though I think our culture is still very much like that, right? Oh, if you have pain, pop a Panadol. It doesn't work. Oh, maybe you try Acoxia, let's do Anorex. Let's just do a whole cocktail of Panadols and painkillers, right? But I think it's a bit more awareness, but also definitely people are just feeling it a lot more. It starts from us, I would say, from a young age. As a culture, as a country, we are hunched over our desks. Yeah, in my chiropractors say they're mostly expats, and they say that our spines, our forward hip posture is the worst they've ever seen in their lives.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you talked about self-medicating, and that's what I do, right? And I think many people only seek help when it becomes pretty serious. We always think, it's going to be fine, it will go away. And only when it gets bad do we kind of seek medical help. Why do you think people are still so hesitant to take action earlier?
I think it's a lot of a mindset, We are, as a country, I speak from my own experience, right? You feel pain, it's like, go pop a Panadol. We don't think that this is something that you kind of actually can solve. For instance, I have one of my physios who specializes in treating people with headaches. But initially, when he first started off, he said he's the headache guy. And people are like, why should I pay to go and see a physio for an hour when I can just have a quick fix? Popping a Panadol literally takes me 30 seconds. Yeah, so that's kind of where the mindset is coming from, I think.
Yeah, it seems like there's a demand for your services, and you touched on this broadly. So the Health Collective is a platform, healthcare platform. What gap did you see in the market that you saw a space for you to operate in?
Yeah, I think, kind of being on the other side of the table, right? A working professional. I think the way I see the healthcare space in Singapore is that we still are pretty fragmented. you're kind of symptom based. So if I have pain in, let's say, my lower back, I go and see my chiropractor, for instance. And then if I have a dental issue, I go and see my dentist. So taking myself as an example, I have quite bad grinding issues. Wearing the lens of a dentist will want me to protect my teeth and ask me to go and get a mouth guard done, which I've done. I've grinded through many mouth guards over life. But then when I started seeing my osteopath for this problem, he actually explained to me that my grinding issues are very much related to my headache. So I first need to solve the grinding issue. And then after that, it will help me then solve my headaches that I'm experiencing. And after kind of having a triangulation of treatments across the various expertise that we have in-house, I'm happy to say that, touch wood, I haven't been grinding too much recently.
My gosh, I need some tips because I am a grinder as well. So you've been on a mission since 2019, right, to help people take charge of their health. What do employers tend to misunderstand when it comes to workplace health, and how do you help shift that perspective?
Well, I think a lot of the mindset is that it is kind of a perk rather than, actually integrating it into how you motivate your workforce. But I would say though, as, you think like, okay, I have a wellness talk, everyone after listening to a talk by the chiropractor would know how to sit well and have good desk ergonomics, and that kind of solves the problem. But it's really various building blocks along the way. You kind of have to integrate it to how you deal with your workforce. And I would say younger companies, they are a bit more mindful of this. With a younger workforce, younger people, I would say, are a bit more preventative in their mindset as opposed to the older folk who's very symptomatic. So with a younger workforce, the companies are gradually being forced, I think, to change their mindset a bit.
Yeah, how will you define corporate wellness program? What is workplace health? Because when I first started my career, I don't remember so much focus on mental health wellness programs. How has it changed? And give us an example of what it looks like in any company.
Yeah. So previously, I would say maybe call it even 2019, a lot of our activities that we did with corporates are very ad hoc. We were like, some employee or someone from the Red Club is like, okay, I want to do a talk on maintaining good posture at the desk. So then we would just put together a talk, maybe do a bit of on-site screening. But, in the past 1 or 2 years, we've noticed that HR wants single person to think a bit more holistically about the whole program so that it makes sense and is cohesive for the employees. Yeah, so I guess with some other HR teams that have been a bit more enthusiastic and mindful, so we have been doing on-site screenings for one of a big professional services firm over the years, from 2019, every year till this year we haven't had it yet. But what we have noticed is that, with kind of consistent and deliberate engagement, over time, they have seen their workforce report less incidents of back pain, neck pains, just being more mindful. And what we go down to do with them is kind of do a spinal check, posture screening, and people are then more mindful of how they sit, how they stand, what they do in their daily lives, really.
So it's good for the employees, but you've also said that corporate wellness can actually boost a company's bottom line as well, right? So can you explain how this works in practice, and what does the ROI on health actually look like?
Yeah, I would say it's a longer-term game that you're doing, right? Because, chronic pain just kind of slowly creeps in, and it does slowly reduce your productivity over time, just kind of like gnawing and eating away at it, as opposed to something like kind of acute illness episode when you're out. But I think, taking this long-term view, and, the insurer that I was chatting with did allude to this as well, that now they are taking this quite seriously as chronic pains have slowly crept up the rungs of what people are claiming for. So it isn't just like an older workforce problem anymore. People in their 20s, 30s are submitting a lot more claims for this. Yeah.
I'm curious as well, how much of a priority is it right now for companies as an expense? Because you would see this as an additional item they might have to foot. Now, is this business as cyclical in that sense? When times are good, people spend, and times are not that great, they might come back?
That's an interesting question. I think that it is still, by and large, viewed as a cost center. But I think as, insurers are getting more wide in their scope of what you're able to claim, or even, flexi benefits and that sort of thing. And as more claims have been submitted for chronic issues, people would gradually, HRs are noticing, insurers are noticing that, this is something that is not just, let's try to think of it as an expense and it'll go away, because I think it's getting more and more,
Yeah, so the big question for many businesses, and, we have a lot of SMEs here in Singapore, how much should a company invest then in employee well-being? Is there a way to quantify this?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, as a boss of an SME myself, that's something this year we've been trying to motivate our staff. So, we're like, we have a wellness, now we are in the midst of our wellness challenge. If you hit X number of steps, you reduce your BMI is healthy, we kind of have to walk the talk, right? You eat a balanced diet, take a picture of you doing sport at least once a week.
Wow.
Then you get, we're all aunties in the company, so you get NTUC voucher. Yeah, so I think I can't quantify the number, but we definitely see it as something that we need to take notice of, right? Because our colleagues who are less healthy naturally end up, it's not they're trying to talking, you just end up taking MC because you're not in good health.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that our workforce is as healthy and, kind of satisfied as possible.
Yeah, where do you see things going in terms of the future of workplace health, where people are more tech inclined, they don't move about as much, they are crouched over the computer more? Where are we going towards in that future that you see?
I think it's hybrid, and I speak from myself. I wear an Oura ring just because it motivates me to, I guess, at least for me, I'm someone who's quite driven by targets and goals. So, wearing the ring just keeps me accountable. So I think it's kind of hybrid that is tech-enabled, but really human-led. Ultimately, what we see in healthcare is a lot about relationships. You trust your clinician, you trust your practitioner that you see before, you kind of take on board their advice and actually execute on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a combination.
Okay, so Amelia, before you go, we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken from your entrepreneurial journey so far? Any advice for those who want to maybe carve their own path in business and in healthcare as well?
I would say, just thinking about it, banking taught me kind of like pace and precision. Going to business school gave me a bit more of a strategic lens on things. But what healthcare has taught me so far is really, I would say, humility. That humans are just so much more than, numbers on a spreadsheet, right? And ultimately, a satisfied workforce is a satisfied yet challenged workforce, I think, is the biggest asset because I'm in the service industry. So that's where I dedicate most of my time to, making sure that the team, I work with, everyone's happy, driven, satisfied, and we can all grow together.
All right. Well, we can all take more steps and a more intentional approach to our health, especially at work. Amelia, it was so great chatting with you today. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That was Amelia Lee, CEO of the Health Collective. Keep it here on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.